It is episode 4 of the All Marlins Off Day podcast, and we are joined once again by the one and only Sean Millerick. Welcome to the pod, Sean. It was so nice having you last time, and it is a pleasure to have you again. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Happy to be back. It's been a week
It
for
has, it
Marlins
really has.
baseball, and so happy to dive into it.
Yeah, let's get straight to it because this one is just action packed from the get go. Like the Marlins just finished a 9 game skid at 6-3, which for a team who has struggled for the most part in the month of May, it is a really nice stretch to go at. You take a sweep and you take 2 of 3. Unfortunately, that Philly series did not go as planned, but hey, you can't complain. This team played hard baseball and they played really well against one of the top teams in the league. I think that Astros series really sticks out. That was a series where personally I had us getting swept. So for the Marlins to take at least one, but 2 games is just impressive. What is your take on that stretch?
Absolutely. So hey, we throw out May. It's a winning ball club right now. They've been
Yeah.
averaging over 6 runs per game in the month of June on there, which is mind blowing for this
Yeah.
offense. The way it's been so far this season. Um, apparently the Nationals, they're going to be our punching bag this year. So it was great that we swept them, but you
Mhm.
sweep them with that thought that, all right, since we swept them, we could afford to get our tails kicked around by the Astros. They're one of the best teams in baseball. They are better than the Miami Marlins, and still are.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we went into that. You're thinking, well, just don't get swept, there. But and that's about all we were hoping for. But we win the series, get 2 out of 3 there. That sets us up on this big road trip, this 10-game
Mhm.
road trip they're heading into. That Astros series, getting 2 out of 3 there gives you some latitude for the rest of it going forward. And then we did drop 2 out of 3 against Philadelphia, but honestly, you could afford that after winning the Astros series for
I
what
agree.
this team I think needs to accomplish right now. It's the way those 2 losses went that really sticks,
Mhm.
sticks in our teeth right now. But I'm if we just go by the wins and losses in the month of June, it's an exciting time to be a fan.
Man, and you said it because I think it was all a matter of timing for the Phillies because during that series, it was still early for the Phillies. They had just recently fired Joe Girardi, the former manager and former manager of the Marlins, by the way, a while back. But that team with Rob Thompson, their new manager, they have won a crap load of games, and they came back fighting hard against the Marlins. They played really hard baseball. Rhys Hoskins stood out that series. Honestly, he was crazy. He is honestly probably the next Ryan Howard in terms of Marlins killers. Um,
It's a proud
but
tradition in Philadelphia, unfortunately. Pat Burrell, Ryan Howard,
oh man,
and then
Jimmy
Reese
Rollins I
Hoskins is
think killed
next.
us a bit. Oh
They
yeah,
all did. Chase Utley, that's
but
Scott Rowe.
man, to take at least a game in Philly, and by the way, that game was amazing. That one game that we took, it was just a miracle that happened. Marlins were trailing 4-8. Jacob Stallings came through with for Miami in that 3-run bomb.
Biggest hit
Um,
in a Marlins uniform right
oh,
there.
100%, 100%. And many
I think
people
he's feeling the
are
pressure from Nick Fortes.
you got a point there. Fortes has really impressed us, honestly, in terms of offense and defense too, because he was blocking every single pitch in his last appearance as catcher. So props to Fortes and props to Stallings. I'm really pleased with our catchers this year. I think I've said that a couple times in previous pods. I know for a fact I said that in a pod that I did with Jeremiah on Marlins 9. I'll drop a link to his pod with me in it on the description. Um, but yeah, there's a lot to be excited about with our catchers this year. For the Astros series though, I think I am really, really, really happy with the performance of just about everyone. I think everybody played hard. Sandy was not, excuse me, not Sandy. Pablo was just, I mean, amazing. What do you
Pablo
got?
Pablo came in big in that series. And unfortunately, that's the Astros series is the one where he went out early. There, you're feeling good. You're up big over the Astros. You're beating this dominant team that's been setting the tone in the league for years. And then he gets hit on the forearm, and it's just same old Marlins kind of thing. And he's talking after the game. He seems to be in good spirits. Pablo Lopez always seems to be in good spirits. That's a little hard to tell. He could have broken a leg, and he'd be there smiling at the end of the meeting. But that was just once you win game one in that series, you're feeling great. Like the rest of this thing is gravy afterwards, because again, we talked about, you really just needed one win in Houston against
Absolutely.
that team. And so yeah, I mean that's also the game where Jazz had 2 home runs, and
Aguilar had a hell of a night too.
Aggie did too. Big night all around there, and that game was a lot of fun.
I think perhaps we could honestly agree to that one game against the Astros. I believe it was game 2, or I think game 1. I'm probably confusing one of them. Honestly, game of the year for the Marlins. Playing a top 5 team in the league, and they came out. I think it was the Braxton Garrett game. Because remember, it was Braxton Garrett on the mound, and they still came out with the win. So that's just huge. Braxton was amazing on the mound. So for them to win a very critical game, knowing that the club was a bit in turmoil, we'll get to that in a couple minutes. But that was honestly one of the biggest wins that they had in 2022. And you could also argue game 2 against the Phillies, but
coming back in that, I think I'd put that first. But no, just about winning a series against the Astros, in terms of what that represents, I'd agree with you. At the time that happened, I think I tweeted this out either late Saturday or on Sunday. That was Miami's second win of the season in a series against a team with a record over 500.
That's crazy.
As when it happened, it was the Braves early in the season and the Astros then.
And nothing.
Phillies are kind of right, but they've been up and down. But forget the Phillies. It's the Braves and the Astros for wins against a winning team.
So following that 9-game skid with the Marlins, as we just spoke, we move on to a topic that came a little before that stretch, and that was the Marlins 90-minute meeting that Don Mattingly held. Team got together. They went over a couple things, behind closed doors. Media was not allowed. I think still very few information is still out there, but there's a lot of national media came out, and they kind of took it to a whole nother level. They made it seem like the team was asking for Jazz Chisholm's head. Twitter went bonkers. I'm sure you remember what happened that one specific night. We were messaging, and it was out of control, man. Like, with all due respect, I love Jazz Chisholm, right? You love the kid. He's young. He's controllable. He's an all-star for this team, and I wouldn't doubt it. He's going to make that all-star game roster. I would be surprised if he doesn't. Jazz Chisholm is one heck of a player. And no matter who criticizes that guy, he's going to go out to the field and he's going to give his all, because he is literally perhaps a generational player for this team, and probably the first generational player the Marlins had in quite a while in terms of, the offensive. Because pitchers, we got Sandy, Pablo, but in terms of the offense and farm system and whatnot, it's Jazz. It's really Jazz. He's the new guy. But what are some other things you would like to add in terms of, that meeting? I think it just got out of control. I think it was just a regular 90-minute meeting, even though 90 minutes is a little bit too much. But I heard that they went over some stuff regarding like the type of clothes he wore and stuff like that. I think that's when they took it a little bit to the next level. But what do you got? What do you got on that?
Went a little long. 90 minutes is unusual, and and again, I'm reading the same stuff you are. I'm sure. My understanding is that they did cover some things like wardrobe, like what the players are wearing, like maybe showing up on time, and just those kind of things that all kind of boil down to that old school versus new school, veteran versus young kids type debates, and and they tried. Kind of blew up in the media and on Twitter as coming down to, this two personality thing of making it this Miguel Rojas, the team captain, of making this Miggy versus Jazz, type battle as the two focal points. And I think that part especially probably got, overblown on there. As to Jazz being an all-star, I think he's definitely going to be. I've no doubt about that. I wrote about this earlier in the week on there, that it's kind of a unique kind of all-star campaign for what we've seen from the Marlins in recent years, where we just have the cool kid in class. Right now, everyone loves Jazz Chisholm. I think he did an interview for MLB The Show, like a couple of weeks back. Like, he's on there, getting him on a camera, on a microphone every time. And if you had any doubt about the kind of the substance of that meeting being maybe touching on Jazz in some way, I think that was negated by the post-game interview and that 12-2 shellacking of the Nationals that followed that meeting, where Chisholm just talked about his special tool being "I don't care" on there, and that really felt like that was whether that was directed at reporters, whether that was directed at a couple of older people on the team or the organization, but you just felt him talking to them, and did that talking with 2 home runs in that game. So I think he gets in for sure, for the first time for Marlins All-Star, just being the popular guy. Doesn't matter his numbers. He's just going to get voted in by fans because Jazz Chisholm is cool right now. Now, that being said, double-digit homers, double-digit steals. I think he was going to win it anyway with there. And certainly there's the fact that the recent injury to Ozzie Albies for the Braves, that kind of opens the door even more. I'd be stunned. I'd be stunned if he's not the all-star starting second baseman.
Mm-hmm. But you said it, and I was going over some of the interviews that we saw in that day. Garrett Cooper, one of the team's better performers in this month at least, came out saying that the meeting was a bit unnecessary. That the team should just go out. They're not perfect. They're a family, and in families, there's going to be arguments. There's going to be confrontations, and at the end of the day, everybody loves each other. And I think Cooper has a point, because at the end of the day, nobody's perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody is going to kind of lash out, and then a couple minutes later, everybody just hugs it out, and it's all good. But Miguel Rojas also came out in an interview saying that the team rules must be followed. So that kind of gave it away, as well as Craig Mish's pod with Peter Pratt on Locked On Marlins. He
and that's my main source for this.
Yeah,
that podcast. But
he threw a lot of points about Miggy, which kind of gives it away, at least in terms of what we have. That Miguel Rojas was asserting his captain, I guess dominance is the word, on Miguel Rojas.
And to me it's a case of maybe, so if that's true, then maybe Miguel still, I look at it, if we want to use basketball terms, he's still kind of thinking he's Jimmy Butler, but he's got to realize he's more Max Struss right now in terms of it's like his value is giving it 110%. He's kind of more all grit, all hustle at this point, and he's still the leader. And want him to retire a Marlin. I love Miguel Rojas, but
absolutely,
that's this. If there needs to be just a kind of a passing of the torch on that kind of stuff, if that really was any kind of divide, then this is Jazz's show, and it would be great if Jazz gave as much maybe effort into every single play that Miguel Rojas does, because then we're talking about one of the 5 best players in baseball right now. If he does that, and maybe he's never going to do that, but he still could see him being one of the 20 best players in baseball, still one of the big young stars of the game. On there, I still think there's tons more talent for him to uncork. For me, the thing with the where the meeting got kind of messed up or worrisome for me was what happened after the meeting, when Don Mattingly walked in front of cameras and said that
the team was going to come out flat.
The team was going to come out flat, and I don't think this meeting really accomplished anything either. Before we heard from Cooper or other players that this do anything, Mattingly was asked, like, did this kind of resolve everything? Like, not really. And the team's going to be flat tonight. I've never seen anything like that in my lifetime watching professional sports. And I felt comforted as a writer when Craig Mish on Twitter pretty much agreed with me that he'd never seen anything like that in his lifetime
Yeah,
either, covering
yeah,
sports. As a fan, it's terrifying,
it
but
really is.
as a aspiring writer covering the team, it's comforting that Craig was also stunned with that take. And then so Mattingly says that, right, that the team's going to be flat, and then again we win
Come
12
firing
to
bullets.
2.
Yeah,
So like, what kind of pulse does he have on this team right now? On there, like if he didn't know that we were going to come out and just knock heads off, like that's honestly a little concerning to me, and it kind of got swept under the rug by the fact that we swept the Nationals. And
yeah.
like, if we'd lost that series, I think there would have been a lot more talking then about
Oh, absolutely,
like
absolutely.
what
Especially with
what kind
the
of grip does he have on the situation?
yeah, especially with the domino effect that has been happening around the league in terms of manager firings. We saw Joe Madden get pulled. We saw Girardi get pulled. Who's next? I guess Don Mattingly, because we're looking at managers who have been tenured for quite some time, and Mattingly, I think, is among one of the leaders right now in terms of tenures, because he's been the manager of the Marlins since I believe 2015, if I'm correct, because
16.
Redmond left
Yes.
16, right? Oh,
16.
Dan Jennings was 15, right? I remember that. But it's quite a tenure, and the longest tenured manager in Marlins history. And for a
Most
manager to
wins, most
come out,
losses.
oh yeah,
It's got both.
but for a manager to come out and blatantly tell the media, "Hey, we're gonna come out flat," that's not a good look. The players came out, they gave their all. They won 12, I believe it was 12-3, something like that, and then they won five straight. I mean, that's just not trusting your team. That's not trusting your guys. If
Yeah.
if
So I
you're
mean,
gonna
so
go
it's two
out,
parts. It's in a vacuum, not just saying whatever the wrote. The positive light is that they just caught him in a really honest moment out there,
probably.
like and like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that's sweet, that's nice that he's able to get in touch with his inner Donnie
Mm-hmm.
on there. But still, you don't say they're going to be flat, and
Right.
then he was wrong, and it's great that he was, as a fan, and for the players in the clubhouse, but it's just that just kind of stuck with me all all weekend into the weekend. It's like
I
not
feel
flat.
like I feel like the thing that just stood out about that, mentioning it, because I'm pretty sure you weren't alone. I think a lot of people were thinking about that. That comment that Mattingly made. It's the sheer fact that not many managers are as honest, or at least as open to what their true feelings about the team. Maybe, as you said, maybe Don Mattingly was in an honest mood. Many managers tend to just defend, even when I think they know that they aren't performing to their best. They're going to be like, yeah, we're not performing, we'll do better. But they always kind of hint that, oh, we're going to do something about it. No, Mattingly should have said we're going to come out flat. And then the Marlins win the game. The next day he said, "Oh, I slept better last night." so so I think you're right in terms of him probably being in that honest mood. Maybe that meeting kind of got the best of him. But for the Marlins to win five straight, even if it's the Nationals, doesn't matter if it's the Nationals, the Yankees, the Pirates, the Cubs. A win is a win, and especially for a
Yep.
team who just went through a 90 minute meeting. Meetings happen, I think, in the clubhouse many times, but 90 minutes is quite a lot. But I think that does it for the meeting. It was
Yeah,
honestly,
I think so.
it was chaotic afterwards on social media.
That that's a long.
They broke my boy Miguel Rojas for sure. But
Which which you hate to see. I mean, that's just
yeah,
he's
and some of the comments we
the guy.
saw, man, like him or hate him, but if you're one of the guys, or for whoever's watching, if you're one of the guys who honestly doesn't like Miguel Rojas for his criticism to Jazz, if it's true, kind of stick with yourself. It's unnecessary the amount of hate the guy got. Some of them were throwing his deceased mother into it. I think that was just unnecessary. You kind of don't do that type of stuff. But then
Yeah,
at the end of the day, it's
I was
Twitter.
just staying away from once saw that vile
Yeah,
dude.
it
But
was
we,
it
we
was
don't have
awful.
to.
And talking about broken stuff, let's talk about the injuries. I mean, the Marlins were just slammed with injuries a couple days ago. One of the highlighters of that is Jesus Luzardo, one of the guys that we need back on this rotation going to the 60-day IL. I think it was Alex Carver, Fish on the Farm, talking about him possibly returning around July. Edward Cabrera goes to the 15-day. Cole Sulser is going to the 15-day. Paulo Lopez was listed at day to day. We already spoke about him in terms of his, I believe it was his wrist.
The forearm contusion.
Forearm contusion. There you go. Joey Wendell, hopefully making a return. I'm sure you got a little bit on Joey Wendell. We spoke about this a little bit pre-pod. What do you got on Joey Wendell again?
Well, just that he's we need him back. I think I said the last time I was on even that he's still one of our best hitters. He's one of the ones that I trust the most in that situation. Could have used him a couple times in this Phillies series. And if I need a guy to get a hit, I still trust Joey Wendell more than anyone in the lineup, including Jazz Chisholm. To get a hit in the moment that it needs to happen. It's his third time on the IL this season, I believe. It's been the hamstring every time. You can tell the team's being really cautious. This time around, just working him back. Want to make sure that we just hopefully have him right. His timelines kept being pushed back. So right now I think it feels like July. For him that we'll see him. I'd be very surprised if he plays in the month of June, but I think he's definitely beating Brian Anderson back, and he's beating, as you just mentioned with Luzardo, he's certainly beating Luzardo back. I think that 60-day timeline for him keeps him out till the All-Star break or thereabouts, which is what you figure anytime they mention a pitcher's arm in an injury. And unfortunately, that's not even all the injuries.
Yeah. And it got concerning after a while because we would get these injury reports from Jordan McPherson from the Miami Herald. That every person was at least making an attempt to come back, but Luzardo wasn't throwing. He wasn't throwing for a while, and then we finally got the news. Hey, he's going to the 60-day. Hell, even Sixto Sanchez was doing some program thing, and he was throwing from a mound. So I believe at 75 miles per hour. That's the latest update on Sixto. Max Meyer, actually, earlier today, Alex Carver on Fish of the Farm also reported that he's with the Hammerheads, the low A affiliate. Looks like he's going to make some starts there, getting some reps back and getting himself back to game level, back in AAA with the Shrimp. And hey, hopefully future rotation piece for this Marlins club in dire need of starting pitching. And as it says right there, famously said by former Marlins GM Mike Hill, there's never enough pitching. Never enough pitching, and we learned it right here. What do you got on that?
It was our strength coming into the year, right? That we had plenty of pitching, such a deep system. Still, as long-term value, it's still the strength of the organization. Is our pitching, but we've kept taking hits to it, and it started in that Astros series, right? So Pablo goes down in the first game of that series, and he's saying they're even at the end of that game, they kind of made it sound like he might not miss a start, but you're sitting there thinking, Bulls, you're not. You're going to rest him for start pushing back. He's not pitching 4 days from now. And then in game 3 of that series, Cabrera goes down, and he'd been such a good story to that point. Did you think he was going to beat the Astros versus Justin Verlander in that game? No, but he's still been a great part of this rotation, and he gets hurt, and you're not quite sure what's going on with him, and so it's already a rotation that health-wise is down 40% from what it was on opening day. From health or effectiveness this year. We're down Luzardo, we're down Petit, Eliezer Hernandez. Just keep them away as long as possible. Then Trevor's been struggling, but he's healthy at least. But prior to all this, Meyer was hurt. Just when we thought he was going to come up is when he had his arm issues. There as well. It's we've just kind of been duct taping it together, and you didn't expect that because that was supposed to be the strength. There was always going to be another starter. There were going to be too many starters. You mentioned Sixto, and I don't think we're going to see him this year on there. It's great that it's great that he was throwing. I thought I heard on a just as a fantasy pod, I'd certainly go with the most recent report from Jordan over this, but that said that he just wasn't going to pitch this year.
Yeah.
It just kind of came right out and said it. So that advised people to drop him in 15-team leagues for whatever that's worth. If you're playing 15-team leagues, stop holding on to Sixto Sanchez. But yeah, so it's really frustrating because like we kind of covered with this streak, that you'd like to feel, better about this team going forward now that they're scoring, but that was always going to be based on that strong rotation. And if Pablo's fine, and that's kind of feels like that, it's kind of all riding on that. If we still can throw Sandy and Pablo out there, and we're eventually talking about Max Meyer coming up, if he comes up and we're able to put Alcantara, Lopez and Meyer, in a series with
That's good. That's
with
amazing.
Rogers as the four, then I trust us in any series. And playoff series or just regular season series. I'm going to believe in the success of this roster as long as I believe that we could have 3 months, say, of Alcantara, Lopez, and Max Meyer at the top of it. Once that's taken away from me, then it's time for 2023. But
absolutely, you said it. And I think initially the hope for the Marlins coming into the 22 campaign, for the most part, it was to take care of Jake Eater, who underwent Tommy John surgery last year. One of the big lefty starters that the Marlins have in their farm system. The Marlins don't have too many lefties in their farm system in terms of pitchers. They got Evan Fitter, I think, is one of the lefties. Daxton Fulton, Jake Eater, and then after that, it's Trevor, but he's not a prospect anymore. So they kind of lack a bit in that category. Braxton Garrett is another lefty. Jan Castano, another lefty. We'll get to Castano in a bit. But I think for the most part that was the hope, as well as Sixto Sanchez. Obviously, I think we already suspected since spring training that he was not going to return this year, and they kept putting him in some random programs that I think it comes to a point where all of us are just like BS. But it is what it is in terms of Sixto. I think it was expected, but Meyer going down was huge. Kind of slowed down his pacing to getting back up to the major leagues. I think since that second to last start that he had in AAA kind of brought up his chances to come up. Other than that, man, Hoti going down, he was doing great for this bullpen. He was just amazing.
In that bullpen role, such a good leverage arm. It was a really nice kind of turnaround for him for his career as an asset for this organization. And then, that's. Do you know a timeline on him? Like that's one I think I kind of slipped past me a little bit in terms of the direness of his injury, and then it just keeps seeming to be this soft, very soft timetable.
Yeah, so it's saying that manager Don Mattingly, according to Christina of MLB.com, said that Cody Poteet is cleared to play catch. So I think they're gonna make him do like a little catch program, kind of get him back to level. And you're right on the Sixto thing, by the way. I'm reading here. Kyle Glazer of Baseball America said that he is not expected to pitch this year. So, as you said, no Sixto. There it is. It kind of hurts because I love the guy. I love Sixto. I'm a big Sixto fan.
I was holding that hope until I guess this morning when I was catching up on my fantasy baseball podcast that we'd see him in September or something and get a sense of if he good.
Yeah, but Sixto going down,
nope.
It is what it is. At least for the most part, I think that's about it in terms of injuries. A lot of guys that we need up and healthy are not up and healthy, but hopefully by July, as we said, they're going to be coming back and hopefully bolstering this team's lineup and pitching staff, which is something that we need. The team isn't too far out of it as they were last year. By now, they were already 10 games under 500. They were coming right off the Pittsburgh Pirates series, if you remember last year. That was dreadful. That was a dreadful
biggest home run of his career to that point for Stallings in that series.
100%, man.
Not the wind out of us there. But no, you said it, and it comes down to the injury news and I think the way we lost a couple of those games in that
Yeah.
Phillies series, we'll sort of get to that. Take kind of some of the wind out of the sails because again, you sweep the Nationals, you beat the Astros. Like I'm feeling good about that. The direction of the team, the win-loss record in June. Saw some people saying on Twitter that we've got to win this Phillies series, and I'm thinking, no, we don't. We really don't actually. I'm just not on the road, not with how hot they're playing right now. It's like
Absolutely.
if we're 5-5 on this road trip was to go for me, and if we could
take it,
if we could achieve that, so I know it's jumping ahead a bit, but if we're 5-5 by the time we get back to Miami to play the Rockies, if we're 5-5 on the trip, then then we're. I think we're in good shape as long as don't lose anyone else.
Yeah.
To put a bow on the injuries.
So to our next little, I think we would call this one a little mini segment. We have two top performers, and those are two starting pitchers who pitched that Phillies series, and unfortunately, and coincidentally, both of them lost the game, or at least that the team lost the game for them. So the first one we need to cover, it's the ace, Sandy Alcantara. I mean, wow, the dude just continues to just surprise me and stun us and just absolutely shove every single time he touches the mound. And unfortunately for Sandy in that game, he was pulled with a man on third responsible to him with 2 outs, but he was well over 100 pitches. Where do you side, Sean? There's two sides to this. A, pull him before the inning, or B, let him finish it off. Or are you in another page in this?
Once he was set out there, it was his inning to lose. Now, if we're just talking about a regular pitcher with that amount of pitches in a regular situation, then you don't send him out on there. Then it was you go to the bullpen, as suspect as your bullpen might be. With there, you just at that point, you're going for it on there. But in those innings, we've got guys that we feel kind of confident, about that could have gone right to Bass and then right to Scott.
Absolutely.
In those instances, but Sandy Alcantara is not your regular pitcher. Pitcher, just on the run that he's on, he's the ace of this staff, warrior, 7, 8, 9 inning starts. And there, Jordan McPherson had this in the Herald earlier in the week, but that was his 7th consecutive start, allowing 7 innings or more, allowing 2 earned runs or less. I mean,
that's crazy.
You don't see that anymore. That is 1990s. Maddox, Smoltz, Kevin Brown.
On
level stuff. Just give us a little love, for that. But that's old school pitching, and the run that he's on, I think you just let Sandy's untouchable. He's God among pitchers until he proves that he's not, and that means letting him blow the game, lose the lead until he surrenders the lead. Once you sent him out on that 8th inning, you cannot pull him.
Absolutely.
I was wondering why there wasn't someone up earlier in the pen, but that was only in the sense of in case that first batter cranked a homer on there. At that point you can pull him. But I disagreed entirely with the decision to pull him. I thought that was half-assed on there. Once he got the double play that he wanted, he did. He looked really shaky on those 2 walks. He looked like he lost it completely. I was hanging my head like those were not Sandy Alcantara throws. Those were not Eliezer Hernandez throws.
Those are Tyrone Guerrero throws because he was throwing hard.
With that, just all over the place. But then he induces that double play to JT, and after that, it's Didi Gregorius. And I know the splits say that he's terrible against lefties, but it's Didi freaking Gregorius. That was not Bryce Harper standing there smiling at Sandy or anything, or Rhys Hoskins, who's about to go off in this series. It was Didi Gregorius. So come on. That's you let Sandy at 50%, can handle him easily. You let him finish, and if you blow it, then you blow it. And Sandy at least knows that. Instead, you create this situation where I'm not saying that I have proof that this is the case, but we just saw the previous week that maybe Jazz isn't in most love with some of the team policies or some stuff going on with the manager. And now after this is the ace of our pitching staff in love with
Yeah.
the manager right now. It's just like that he wasn't in love with those water bottles anyway on that bench when he got pulled out, and it's so no. I mean, short answer, no. He should not have been pulled. Where are
I
you
agree.
on the decision?
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. They could have let them on. The thing is that everything was just timed perfectly for the Phillies. They take out a guy who was throwing 100 miles per hour in Sandy, and they brought in Oker, who doesn't throw as hard, and he's a lefty. So it's lefty versus lefty. I think Gregorius is a lefty, correct? Yeah, yeah. It's
Yes.
lefty versus lefty, and the splits also say that Didi Gregorius is effective at first pitch hits. And what did Didi Gregorius do as soon as Oker came in? A first pitch hit, and unfortunately, there it went. There was the run. And if I was Sandy, I have the 100% right to be mad. If I'm Sandy, I'm with him. I'm pissed. You're the ace of your team. You cruise onto the entire game. You have a run who is, you're responsible for that run at third. And hey, if Sandy give up if Sandy give up that run at third, then hey, it's his fault, right? It's
Yeah.
he was responsible for it and he gave it up, but he didn't yet. So it's not really fair to Sandy. And you bring out Oker, gives up a hit. It happens. You give up hits in baseball, but unfortunately in that scenario, you can't be allowing hits, and you got to give it to Sandy. The ball was just to Sandy. He's thrown over 100 pitches in many many occasions. This is child's play to Sandy. This is a workhorse. We've mentioned it a million times. Just poor decisioning by Mattingly. Just terrible, terrible, terrible. And I think for all the guys who have actively rooted for Don Mattingly to get fired, I think they were having a field day that night. It was just atrocious. And I don't know if you were a part of the were you a part of the Twitter Spaces that they
Oh
did
yeah, no,
after
and I
the
went and Alex and I went back and forth, agreeing with each other basically
yeah
on just what a disastrous bit of managing that was. Um, I have never been in the until a little bit recently, honestly, in the like they need to fire Mattingly camp. I know that I've written a couple of pieces in the last couple of years suggesting that I can see this universe or scenario where the Marlins would do it
yeah
on there, and that's as part of decades of experience at the Miami Marlins organization, doing the wrong thing at the wrong time with with their managers. You mentioned Mike Redmond earlier. Firing Mike Redmond for Dan Jennings on there
Dan
without a
Jennings.
backup plan. That was actually one of my greatest moments as a amateur writer. By the way, I predicted to the day when Mike Redmond would be fired on
Oh
there, but that was
wow.
just like weeks out. And that was just based on he was fired with the same record that Jeff Torborg was fired
Oh yeah
when
yeah yeah.
Jack McKeon took over the Marlins, and I just saw that record coming like a week or two away. I'm like, Loria is so in love with the past of this franchise that if Redmond gets a 16-22, he's firing Redmond and finding the first person he can find, and boy did he
He did,
when
and
he put Jennings in there. But this was the first time in Mattingly's tenure I've just been like, well, that was just wrong on there. Like I feel confident. Yeah, I've never coached baseball on there. Haven't played much baseball, but
right.
I could say with a great deal of confidence, you did the wrong thing in that
You did.
situation,
You
and
did.
it could have big repercussions and other things connected to that. We talked about the lefty matchup with Okert. Why not Scott? Why not Scott in that
Exactly.
situation? He throws a little
Exactly.
bit harder than
Hmm.
Okert, and
It
as
kind
we
of
also
matches
get the
the
lefty
Sandy
matchup.
repertoire. So you got fast and fast, but then you're switching from a righty to a lefty, so it confuses hitters, but they're still having to deal with fast pitches. So there you go. That was the way to go.
And then on top of just one more, so we've joked for a year about Anthony Bass in the ninth inning,
Yeah.
just like he's a different pitcher in the ninth inning. Why would you put Bass in the ninth inning? He's been great all
Exactly.
year in the seventh and the eighth. Doesn't matter if it's righty or lefty. I'm sure there is a statistical difference, but he's been great the seventh and the eighth or
He's
the
been
sixth,
fantastic.
all year long. Why put him in the ninth and put him in the ninth? It was not a good day for Mattingly.
Anthony
We
Bass.
should have won that game, honestly, and we should have won that series. But
Oh, 100%. We could have even swept that series if you think about it, given what happened game 3.
it's
but
in game 3, but at least that one's a little more variable. This is
yeah, yeah.
the manager cost the team the game
Mhm.
on Monday.
I agree with that. And that brings us to our second top performer. That is this guy right here, the Italian stallion, Daniel Castano. The interesting part about Castano is that he was called up by the team to fill in that hole for Edward Cabrera, who unfortunately fell off with injury, as we mentioned earlier. But the funny part about Castano is that he told a story to Kelly Sacco in the telecast. He lost his luggage. There's his ball. There's the autograph by
Stan
the
Castano's
Italian
autograph.
stallion.
It's going to be worth something.
Dan Castano was mentioning to the telecast that on an interview that when he was coming over here, he lost. He had lost his bags. He lost his cleats. He went to Dick's Sporting Goods. He purchased a cheap pair of cleats. He started a game for the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp, and he had like 7 innings into a no hitter. Like he was just shoving. He gets called up by the Marlins, and he shoves against one of the hottest teams in baseball right now. A lot of props are deserving there for Daniel Castano, but I feel like Daniel Castano has a curse. He has won a game, but he just can't win another game. He can't win a game. He can't. It's either he pitches too little, and when he pitches enough to qualify for a win, the team shits the bed. The team just shits the bed. But man, there's so much to be happy for Castano. He deserved that. He's such a nice guy. He's so humble, laid back. He's always active with the fans. He's a ball player. He's amazing. He's a great guy, and honestly, he deserves that shout out we just gave him. He's
Sure.
fantastic.
And hey, the Phillies can't touch him. I think it's 4 appearances now without a zero. His ERA against the Phillies is 0.00.
Funnily enough, I mentioned to you in a reply, just joking. I'm like, it ends today, man. It ends today. The Philly team is
I
too
thought
hot.
I thought for sure I wrote that game off, and going into the game, and it's and just getting back to just like quickly the narrative of how many wins do they need on the road trip, and after winning that Astros series, like as long as we win 1 out of 3, we're fine. And when I woke up that morning on a bullpen day for the Marlins, I'm like, but we're going to lose 10-2, and it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll split in New York, and it's good. Once they push Lopez back in that start, and just never thought he was making that a day game. 2 on there with a chance to do extra rest on the Thursday. This is our off day. Pod. I'm like, there's no way Lopez is doing this. So I did not believe, and I am sorry, Dan Castano, because that was one of the best starts we've seen.
Oh, I agree.
Marlins pitcher this season, without exaggeration, and this is a team that includes Sandy Alcantara.
Absolutely.
But that was. We were going to have 2 All-Star starters in the All-Star game. Lopez too. Castano was great.
Yep.
7 shutdown dominant innings, and it was a big boost for the team. Win or lose, just the fact that he was able to save the bullpen to that extent.
Absolutely.
Even with an off day the next day, that was it gives you hope.
Okay. It's just a depth piece, right? We mentioned how hard the rotation has been knocked. They lost another lefty in Luzardo. So to have those lefties kind of backing them up, and sure, they don't have the same ceiling as Luzardo, but they came up, they did their job, they did their part, and guess what? They gave it their all. They went, I think the Phillies were 0 for 9 with runners in scoring position against Castano that game. Like he would give up a walk or at least give up a hit, but he would get out of it. Like there would be men in third with like 1 out, and he would still manage to get out of it. That's how effective he was on the mound. He was just lights out. He was lights out. He deserves it. He was fantastic. Fantastic. Owner of the Phillies, I guess it's fair to say.
him and Mickey.
Absolutely. Oh, and Mickey had a heck of a series as well. A little bit of a credit there to the captain who went through a lot of shade this week. So for him to go out there and give his all, that's another guy that deserves his credit there for that series. As we move on to our next point, and this still ties up to that third game, the bullpen. We've mentioned this many times, Sean. At least I have for the most part. I've gone on Twitter a bunch of times when I do my rants. The team just doesn't have a closer, man. They don't have a closer. The closer by committee, man. I understand at this point it's just late, but I don't know. I don't see how any of these guys just qualify for that shutdown closer type esque pitcher that we could have pursued. Maybe like a Kenley Jansen, maybe like a Raisel Iglesias, even though to anybody else's defense, Raisel Iglesias has had his hiccups. He has allowed those walk-off home runs as well, but in his track record, it shows Raisel Iglesias is a shutdown closer. So I feel like the Marlins missed out on that piece. Imagine the amount of success the team would have, and not by a large margin, because at the end of the day they lost a ton of one-run games. But imagine the one-run games where we lost because of the pitching. Those are wins that the Marlins could have right now. Hell, they could be tied with the Phillies in terms of record right now.
Yeah, no,
So
you can argue completely that this is a 500 team if they
yeah,
had done that in the offseason. And, in terms of how I wish they had calculated their dollars and cents in the offseason, I've been a lockstep with you, on Twitter. I mean, just imagine if they had paid Kenley Jansen and just put DLC out there and said never signed Avisal Garcia and paid Kenley Jansen.
oh man,
Then this team probably has the same record as the Phillies right now. You're right, but over the past week and a half, I gotta say I am kind of starting to see something in Tanner Scott. I mean, he did just
yeah,
blow it the other day, but there's only so much rage I can generate for a pitcher on his 30th pitch in a day game after a night game, after as much as he's been used in the past week, to have that 30th pitch suck just a little bit and drift in a little bit. It's unfortunate that we're going to be watching that meme of that spiked bat from a backup catcher on Twitter for the rest of the baseball season. But
oh man,
I forget his name, and we all will in a week. But that's it's a blow. But he's been pretty good.
he's been really good.
So I still want them to get pitching help.
Right. Yeah.
This year, if they go on a run here, they should go get their late inning reliever. For sure. And they have to, honestly, if Sulcer is going to miss any meaningful amount of time, it'd be negligent of the front office not to do something even this season to get a little bit of extra help there.
Right.
But the last 2 weeks, I really like what I've seen from Tanner Scott. And if he does what he did the other day again, well rested, and he goes into Shea on Friday, night or Saturday, and his first save situation since then, and gives up a homer to Alonso, then okay, all right, then we're back to where we thought we were. But
yeah,
I'm comfortable. I feel much better about the closer situation, honestly, than I did a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
My biggest takeaway from the game the other day is just that the front office should have spent more on the bullpen, not that they should have put Scott out there.
I agree with you. And you pretty much nailed it on your point. I love that you included the fact that Tanner Scott was 30 pitches into his outing in the ninth. And believe me, and we're not professionals. Those guys, it's not easy to record 3 outs. Believe it or not, especially against a tough team like the Phils. Tanner Scott gave his all. He had 2 outs, man, and let's be honest here. The game could have been over if Jesus Sanchez caught that ball in center, right? So that's another point to bring out. That was just dreadful, and that goes to show once again the Marlins' inability to be smart when paying. Because many would say, hey, the Marlins have money, whatever. The Marlins did spend money, but they didn't spend it effectively. I 100% agree with you that there's still time to fix this bullpen. I do think that if the Marlins maintain this kind of stretch where they're like 3 games under, 5 games under, or at least they approach a little bit closer because they're about to enter a July stretch, which they're going to be facing the Pirates a lot of times, the Reds.
So easy.
It brings
before this all started, if you count, and sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good.
If we count the Phillies as under 500, then, and I'm sure they'll lose again, and put us there, then it was something ridiculous. And I think this was true after the National Series and not before it. But 59% of their games going up until the trade deadline were against teams that at that point in time had a record of under 500,
right?
On there, so the Phillies math kind of changes that a bit because we still got some games left against Philadelphia, I believe.
Yeah.
In there, but it's a softer schedule, than leading up to that point. So there's definitely time to make up some ground or enough to do what I think you're suggesting, and to give them a little bit of assistance.
Right. And you said it, because looking at their schedule, it appears that their main competition is really going to be the Mets, because they're entering a 4 game stretch with the Mets, and they're going to play the Mets again, and then they play the Braves. The Braves are another one of the top hottest teams in baseball, and many could argue once again the Braves have also played the Reds, and the Pirates, and the Nationals in that stretch. But hey, winning all those games in a row is impressive, regardless of who you are. As we said earlier, a win is a win, but yeah, that's just a needed series win for the Marlins for July, when they have to play all these under lower tier teams, the Pirates, the Reds. They play a 1 game series against the Rangers, who honestly are just carried by their bats. They look very familiar to that 2012 Marlins type of team.
Yeah.
Spent a lot of money, but they're not exactly there. But yeah, I think that pretty much covers that for the bullpen in terms of that. Marlins just gotta keep on going, right?
Yep.
Uh, for the next mini topic, this came out and it was very vague, but Ramon Laureano appears to just come out of nowhere, and this was a hot topic of a conversation in the off season, and it appears to come back. Um, it was apparently quote unquote reported that the Marlins appear to be interested, or at least in, on Ramon Laureano. I was a big fan of pursuing a Ramon Laureano type player, or at least, hey, Ramon Laureano is Ramon Laureano in terms of the type of production that he brings. Good defender. He's gonna help that defense in the outfield.
He's
With
catching that
Soler.
ball.
He's catching that ball. Yes, he's catching that ball against the Phils. Um, he has a pretty solid bat. My takeaways from this Ramon Laureano thing, and regardless if it happens or not, let's get a little bit, I guess, in the fantasy of things here. My proposal that I just kind of brought it to mind is that Ramon Laureano brings another righty to the lineup, right? So in my analysis, Jeezy is going to be blocked by Jesus Sanchez and Avisario Garcia, who are getting paid quite a lot of money. So it really depends what happens there with Soler after the season ends, if he's going to opt out or not. But I don't think he will. It's guaranteed money that he's going to be getting.
I don't know. I think there's a
You think he
line of
will?
30. I think 30 homers is the over/under line there. I think if he's got over 30, I think if he's got over 30 homers, he's opting out, and someone will pay him more than
That's a fair point. Fair point.
Man.
So, that's a good point to bring, because now I'm thinking, okay, say we acquire Laureano, you're giving away a piece like a Burdick. You're probably giving away Jesus Sanchez, maybe. Who knows?
I think that's possible. I mean, like, if what these discussions would be, I think that would have to be on the table. But yeah, it could be Burdick. Maybe it's Blade. Maybe it's a package of just
Mm-hmm.
the top outfielders behind him. When when we were all excited about this in the off season, you kind of thought this would involve a first baseman, because I
Yeah.
think a lot of the Laureano talks, or a good percentage of them, were happening after the A's had already traded Matt Olson.
Right.
And had moved their star first baseman to the Braves. And it's like, okay, so what are they going to do with that position? And when we're going into the season ready to be world beaters, guns blazing, you're thinking, is that Lewin Diaz going over to the Athletics? But then are we just going to keep riding it out with Aguilar and Cooper? I think now a permutation of that, I can't imagine they would send Diaz. I think it would be, there's a chance that maybe that this could be Cooper or Aguilar as part of it. And honestly, it could be a situation. If I had to guess, I feel like we'd be more inclined to keep Cooper right now. So maybe to convince them to take some of that Aguilar money, maybe we're talking a better prospect being attached.
Absolutely.
On there with Laureano coming over. But I think a first baseman would be part of it. So whether that's, and there's some other bats that you're better, and certainly Alex Carver is much better with the prospects. But there's some other guys who play first base that are hitting well right now. If a Laureano trade happened, I'd be shocked if there's not a first baseman in it.
So, and you said it because one of the replacements that I had in terms of a future with Laureano is that Aguilar is gone. I think at that point you could clear that logjam at first because Laureano already brings those tools that Aguilar already had with the team, and probably even an even better power type of hit tool in Laureano's bat. Because Aguilar hasn't really shown too much in terms of the power. In Milwaukee he was just blazing home runs left and right, and if you look at his spray chart, Aguilar used to hit the ball everywhere in the field, right, center, left. Now it's just in left field. You look at Laureano's spray chart; it's a bit more balanced. He's hitting them anywhere, and those are little details that you kind of acquire as you really dig into it. He's got more of a contact type of bat that Aguilar already has, so you're not really losing much by losing Aguilar because at the end of the
No,
day, all of our three first basemen, Lewin, Jesus, and Cooper, are all pretty solid defenders. So by taking away Aguilar, you got Cooper at DH, and you could call up Lewin, which adds another lefty to the lineup to help the balance. So I know I'm a big fan of the balance. I did tweet this out earlier, but if you really start thinking about it, hey, we add another power bat, and Lewin was hitting dingers in the minor
it's a
leagues.
power bat. It's better defense. Like it's kind of a.
Absolutely.
So I definitely think that this probably, assuming that Lewin isn't part of the package, and,
Hmm.
that would really surprise me. If it's a prospect going out, I think you're talking, McIntosh or any other,
Oh
type.
yeah.
I don't think they'd get rid of Diaz at this point. So then you're bringing him onto the roster. So it's kind of a 2-for-1 addition. You're getting, the same amount of power, similar amount of power, and better defense at first, along with what Laureano brings
Mhm.
to the outfield. Then DH is Cooper with occasionally, all the outfielders cycling through.
Right.
If we're still got everyone on board.
And I'll tell you what, if Soler opts out and this guy is not included in that trade package, you would have Avi in right, Laureano in center, and you could throw in Gerard Encarnacion in left, or vice versa. Switch Avi to left, Encarnacion to right, because he's seen more right field than left field. I think is how it was. I think he's seen more in right.
That seems
Um,
right. I wasn't bringing him up because I can really see him going.
yeah, that's another
In
guy that
this
I could
trade,
see
I wasn't
going.
counting on Encarnacion being around, but if he is here, sure. And
So
I'm glad you've accepted that Avisel Garcia will be here until what is it, 2025 or
yeah,
whenever that contract runs out.
I think it's fair to say if Avisario Garcia stays with that same type of low standard performance that he's brought us, is he the next Wei Yen Chen?
I will say he's been great in June, and I threw
Yeah,
this
yeah,
out when I saw some Twitter happy dances when he went out of the lineup like a week ago. So I'm like, he's hitting over 300 in June, and I'm like, no one else
yeah,
is.
yeah.
But they're all singles up the middle, but but still, that's moves runners along. But yeah, I'd be happy to improve on him.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, going to this Laureano topic, even if it happens and even if it doesn't happen, it's nice to see the Marlins being featured into these little players that they're like supposedly in, because it brings discussion and it brings the fans a little bit more together despite all the hardships that the team has endured so far into the season. And many people may disagree with each other, but at the end of the day, it brings us all together. Um, a
And I think the
Laureano
clubhouse too.
acquisition. Oh yeah, absolutely,
With the and
absolutely.
one thing I wrote about the other day, like this, this clubhouse, can kind of use that boost on the front office. Teams really staying together, they're playing well right now. There, it would be nice to see, the front office give them some kind of, sign or boost, show of support.
Oh
That
yeah, and
and
Laureano has that.
Laureano is an improvement. Whatever that would do for the players that remain, the team would be better off if Laureano here
Oh
than.
man,
Um,
defense, hitting, power. He's got it all. He's a multi-tool player, and he's going to help this team bolster. He's going to bolster the lineup. He's going to help the defense in the outfield, and center field is not even arguably is the most commanding position in the outfield. So to have that guy And we've seen what he could do with that arm. He's got a cannon of an arm. So
Oh yeah.
getting Laureano would be huge to the third power for this team. So um
And he's controllable. It's 2025, right?
controllable.
Is free
Yeah.
agency for him?
I believe
Or
according
is
to
it?
Eli from Fish Stripes, it's 24 or 25, one of those 2 years. So hey, you add some value, not value, excuse me, control. The Marlins are all about that control. The track
Yes,
record shows it. Look what we did
absolutely.
with Luzardo, Marte for Luzardo, and Luzardo is here until like what 2026, 2027. So you said it. You said it. I think I think it's never too late. It's never too late to go pursue Laureano. If they're gonna do it, hey, by all means, do it. The team needs to start winning more games. The hope for me right now, the goal for this team is to get to the end of July. Look at your team and say, hey, we're 2 games under. We're a game under. We're 500. We're a game over. You buy. I think you buy at that point. You buy.
Yeah,
You, and that's I think the vision, because honestly, if we're looking back in like May, late April, many people, well, at least for me, I was questioning where's the vision, where's the drive, what are they trying to accomplish this season? But that's a nice target to go to. Look at your team in the deadline with an acquisition of Laureano that you did in June, and you reevaluate yourself. They're performing well. They're winning games. They're not really out of it. Even if the division looks difficult, it's an expanded playoff, and every team is going to be trying hard to win. If the Marlins can at least, even if they don't make it, but they show that they're trying, the fans are going to get into it. The fans are going to be, hey, with all the things that we've been through, we're looking at this team and they're in it. They're not out of it. Every time we make it to the deadline, it's sell, sell, sell. But this time, if we could switch the tides and go buy, 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 then hey, I'm liking where this is going.
you said it, and especially in this market, and
Mm-hmm.
the Panthers, one of the best teams in the NHL. The Heat, one of the best teams in the NBA. The Dolphins win trophies every offseason, for doing everything they need to do. We're all can't wait. We're chomping at the bit to watch Hill and Waddle get ready and in the camp. But the Marlins, yeah, this is kind of a watershed offseason for them. I think there's been a plan. I think until this season when Jeter jumped ship to do Subway commercials and
The
the
documentary.
and the documentary, and we struggled out of the gate. We were thinking that there was a plan, and it was refreshing that there was this stability. They didn't. We joke about the Metsing themselves every year, that the Marlins didn't Marlins themselves by doing a let's fire a Mike Redmond for Dan Jennings type firing, or trading Max Meyer for Dan Straley, or
Mm-hmm.
some combination, like some short-sighted, not that useful win now, knee-jerk reaction to things. But they've built this really good farm system, and they either
Mm-hmm.
need to
Take advantage
get a
of
little
it.
more. They either need to get a little more aggressive with the promotions, or you use those assets to get that one big piece.
I agree.
But they keep kind of coveting them. We've been blasting them for prospect hugging kind of all season with this, and now some of those prospects are hurt,
Yeah.
honestly. So
Yeah.
now you're really kind of looking at less options to maneuver there. So I think if they're close there, if we get Meyer up, and we were able to do that Alcantara, Lopez, Meyer rotation, be close to competition,
You look better.
then they should make a move. They should bolster the roster now. It could be a little bit of addition, subtraction, a little bit of
Yeah.
2023 to it, but at the end of the day, buying at this deadline,
Oh yeah.
or else they're just going to be perennially fourth place. In this part, you need to start changing that narrative.
Yeah. And that reputation, the fans are sick and tired of it, man. I don't know. When did you become a fan? Is it like since birth?
So I do remember listening to the first game on the radio. That was, I guess, even before knowing I wanted to study history. It's like, well, this is special. And like I was playing, I don't know, probably with Power Rangers or something. With the game on the radio, I'm like, I'm going to make a point of listening to this. This is the first time there's baseball on there.
And there you
So
go,
that,
man.
but following it like fanatically since about 2000. I mean, I did go to a couple games in '97. I was at Game 7
That's
on there,
awesome.
so that kind of got me hooked. But like watching the majority of the games and reading about them all, that was about 2000 when I made that dive. What about you?
For me, I'm a little bit more of a. I was born in '03, so I'm a child literally. But I'd say when I really started to get to know players, get to know, you know, who's good, who's bad. I guess it's how little kids kind of interpret things. I would say 2007. I was a huge fan of Josh Willingham. For some reason, I
Okay.
just love that last name. I love that last name as a kid. I have pictures with D Train. Give me a fist bump when I was a little kid. But as fans, me, you, both, everyone else who's a Marlins fan, we're sick and tired of this fire sale stuff, man. And many people have really. I've also seen a kind of growth in fans who actively want another fire sale because they
Did
genuinely
you
don't think that
did
this
you see
team
the
could work.
story today? Like I think it was I don't want to blast another news site, I guess.
No,
But
you're
they
good.
like the there was a sports agency that just seemed to be floating that Jazz Chisholm, like what would the White Sox have to give up
I
for Jazz
saw that,
Chisholm
man.
on there, and I'm just sitting there thinking, like, you know what? Sure, if Luis Robert and Liam Hendricks, if they show up too early for work and dress too nice for Jose Abreu's liking, then sure, let's talk
Sure.
trade. But unless that's your offer, no thanks.
It's just
I couldn't believe that was suggested, and that's not what I think for a moment the Marlins were considering. But I was just like, what the hell am I reading? Of course, we're
yeah.
not trading Chisholm for 1A and 2A prospects. But
And it's so random because there's so many players in the league, but no, they're going for the Marlins players. And this kind of ties into that point that we made earlier with the whole meeting thing and how the team, apparently, according to the national media, is asking for Jazz's head type thing. So, um, there's just so much false reporting, in my genuine opinion. And I think you could agree with me. I think local media covered that situation so well. And for fans, man, we're sick and tired of this same repetitive loophole that the Marlins keep getting themselves into. 2008, man, I was still young. I'm sure you remember D Train Cabrera getting out of here. 2012, what happened there? We were the most
yeah,
anticipated team in 2012, even though the team was a little bit old in terms of veteran presence. But the whole team was sold. The whole team was sold. And then 2017, which though I will say 2017 was a little bit more necessary in terms of, recovering team debt, and the farm system was just atrocious. In 2017, to be fair, was the most necessary fire sale. The others, man, it was terrible, terrible, terrible. And to enter another cycle of the same old, we're going to lose 100 games this year, guys. It's not worth watching. No, man, the fans want to watch
no,
baseball. Miami,
yeah,
it has potential for baseball. Huge
no,
potential.
and we're not losing 100 games this year. That's We're going to have
Absolutely not.
there's going to be two starting Marlins in the All Star game. The starting
Hmm.
pitcher of the National League is going to look over his shoulder and see his second baseman behind him. It's going to be Alcantara and Jazz and the starting lineup, and Pablo's coming in a few innings later. That's not
Yep.
It's too much talent to do a rebuild. Too much controllable talent to do that again.
But yeah, I think that really pretty much does it for the Ramon Laureano. And for our last segment is the upcoming series for the Fish. So looking at their schedule, they got a 4-game series against the New York Mets.
Got to be 2 and
Followed,
2.
it's got to be 2-2, and they don't have their two Cy Young caliber pitcher, uh, in Jacob Degrom and Max Scherzer. So losing those two pitchers for the Mets kind of bolsters the Marlins' chances here. Depending who the pitching matchups are going to be, I haven't looked at them to be fair with you, but hoping they're very possible for the Marlins to kind of
Have they
climb.
been announced yet? Because I was trying to figure out when the Sandy start was earlier.
So
Um,
for the Marlins, Carrasco for the Mets, Marlins are TBD. Then it's game two, Walker versus Brax, and then Alcantara versus Bassett, and then the
okay.
last game is TBD. So it's probably going to be a bullpen game. So you're kind of looking for a two and two.
they're probably figuring out what they want to do with Rogers, honestly, on the Monday.
Oh, good point.
But and hopefully one of those is Pablo. It's kind of where he slots in.
Hmm.
So I mean, if we can put Alcantara and Pablo in this series, then yeah, that gives us a chance, and hopefully we get a better matchup for Sandy than we did in the game one of this series. I that was another one where waking up the morning of that Alcantara start, I was thinking that honestly, Sandy's going to lose today, and he's going to lose because once I saw it was Aaron Nola, like
Yep.
the Marlins will not score a run, and Sandy will give up one, and that'll be how it goes. But there's not a there's not a Nola in their rotation. The Mets rotate, and there's any Carrasco. Some of those guys are capable of stepping up and being really good, but we're catching Tyler McGill still working his way back from injury. Carrasco's been up and down. Yeah, I think does Walker go in this series? I think he's still.
Yes.
So no, hopefully the way that the Marlins are hitting right now, we could get a little more run support for Sandy. I know that's asking a lot historically, but get a little more run support for him in this series, and then we just need to steal one of the other games. And again, they've got to feel great about 2-2 and getting home at 5-5.
And Sean, I gotta love how you mentioned that, for Sandy, many people do complain, hey, we don't score runs for Sandy. But guess what? When we're playing those Sandy games, we're facing the other team's ace. So that's something many people don't really necessarily take into account in many terms.
Yeah,
I
and
think the
then
one against
on
Nola.
Monday they covered that, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
some people were complaining that we didn't score runs. I'm like, Aaron Nola's one of the 10 best pitchers in baseball. Like, they're
yeah,
not sure.
yeah.
But Wednesday, Kyle Gibson is not one of the 30 best pitchers in baseball, and we should have done better. There should have been more runs the other day, but
So the Marlins are going to be playing 3 series until their next off day, which is on the 30th. We'll be having another guest for that podcast. Marlins are going to be playing a 4-game series against the Mets. They come back home to Lone Depot Park, play a 3-game set against the Rockies, followed by a 3-game set against the Mets, and then a 3-game set against the Cardinals. In my honest opinion, I think the Marlins will take 2 of 4 from the Mets in that first series in Queens, followed by a sweep of the Colorado Rockies. They're going to get the revenge from Coors Field. They're going to show what a pitcher's ballpark is like. They're going to take 1 of 3 from the New York Mets in the home stand. They're going to win that Jazz bobblehead night game on Saturday. And
okay.
then
Legacy Saturday, right?
Yeah. Yes. And then they're going to take 1 of 3 from the St. Louis Cardinals to wrap up their season series against the Redbirds. So I have the Marlins winning 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games in that stretch. Which do you got?
Me too. It was this guy. I was just running through that 7-6. I've got a split against the Mets here, and then I think we're winning the next 2 series, 2 games in each. I think we'll beat the Mets. I think we'll get that. I'm holding out there. They'll still be down Scherzer and DeGrom. Then I think we're going to win a Mets series as a result of that. And so I think we'll take 2 out of 3 from the Mets at home, and then the Cardinals are just at it. They're one of those other level franchises, and I don't think we'll beat St. Louis. But so 1 out of 2 there at 7-6.
I gotta love the optimism, right? Coming after that stretch the Marlins just had, even despite the injuries, it's really nice to see, this team actually trying. They're working their butts off. They're playing hard despite tough losses that they've had. And like you said, Sean, like this is a stretch that looks tough, but if the Marlins could beat the Astros, and I know we're relying too much on the Astros series, but hey, it was a tough team, and the Mets are another super tough team. If we could show, hey, we're not a bottom tier, we're not the bottom feeders, right?
Right.
We could go and attack you too. We could win games off of you, and this is the first time they're going to be facing those Mets, the division leaders. That's something else that is quite interesting. Is that the Marlins haven't yet played the Mets until tomorrow, so that's going to be
crazy that it's
very
been
interesting.
been that
That's
long.
very unusual in terms of MLB scheduling, and it's going to get even more unusual next year when teams start to play each other all 30. which is gonna be fun. I can't wait for that.
I'm not going to know what to do with that. I do a bunch of stadium chasing, trying to go to all 30. I'm trying to go to all 30 ballparks. I'm sitting on 23 at the moment. But if there's traditionally you can go these long stretches, without like go 5, 6 years without getting an opportunity to play a team. And now it'll be every other season. So I'm gonna rack up some stadiums, I think, in the next next couple of years. So it'll be cool.
But man, Sean, it's been an hour and 15 minutes here on the pod, but man, we went over possibly and honestly the most packed segment ever in my pods that I've done so far, and it's honestly been a true honor having you joining me.
Hey, thanks for having me on. It's so much to unpack. It's been like I said at the top, it's been a week, right? I mean, it's a lot of content to cover.
But you were you're always an awesome guest. I recommend you to literally anybody who has a pod and would like to have you on. You have great analysis. And man, I think we're gonna wrap it up right here. This is honestly a very, very awesome pod with you, man. Definitely gonna shout you out down there. Guys, follow MIA Sports Minute and Call to the Pen. He is a writer on that site as well. We'll also drop the link to that site so you can go check out Sean's latest article. We're gonna drop that out there on as well. And honestly, thank you all for joining. This is episode 4 only, and we've had quite a lot of guests joining us and more to come. If you enjoy this type of content, be sure to subscribe, like, and don't hesitate to leave a comment and suggest some more content I could throw out on here. I intend to not only do podcasts, I also want to possibly enter some highlight videos, throw some music on it, make it look cool. But yeah, I think we're gonna wrap it up right here. Sean, once again, it's been amazing having you on, and
great talking to you as always.
In the next one.